Hi, welcome to the WedgeCast. My name is Matt Baxter. I'm the CEO and founder of Wedge. And I'm sitting here today with Director of Talent Acquisition for Spectrum Health, an amazingly large employer in the West Michigan area. And Eric is here today to share some highlights, some trends, and some excitement going on in the recruiting world for you job seekers. So Eric, why don't you tell us a little bit about the recruiting world from your perspective and what Spectrum Health is?
Awesome, thank you, Matt. So Spectrum Health is a health system located in West Michigan, 30,000 employees, 14 hospitals, have a robust medical group and a health plan as well, so a truly integrated network. And I get the honor of leading the talent acquisition team here. Right around 1,100 open jobs currently.
So your job's full.
So our jobs, yes, plenty. Fill about 130 to 140 each week. So great team downstairs to help us accomplish those goals.
So roughly, just for people to understand the magnitude of what you guys are trying to do and the system that you guys have, how many people might you have apply on a normal month, say?
Well, geez, I have the figure annually. We can divide it by 12 if we need to. But about 170,000 applications every year. That's about 50 to 60,000 unique applicants each year. So a lot of relationships and touch points in those interactions.
That's awesome, man. Busy with you guys. So one of the things I think a lot of viewers and listeners who are in the job seeking world would really want to know is, what trends are you noticing that might be a little bit different within the last year that might be helpful for them to be aware of from your perspective? What would that look like?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing with the employment market right now is it really is a candidate's market. Supply and demand, many jobs and candidates have options. So what that means from the employer side is it's a little bit trickier.
Sure.
What is going to be our differentiator, our value propositions? Employers can, raise the floor of their wages or increase wages, but that only goes so far. And
Sure.
then it's finding culture or benefits or other differentiators that you can offer your workforce. For recruiter, man, you got to be good at your job. You have to be a good recruiter.
Yep.
You have to understand what that means. And skill definitely is a differentiator as far as landing talent. But as a job seeker, if you're looking, the nice thing is if you're driving down the road, I see it all the time, hiring now, jobs open.
It's all over the place.
Sign-on bonus. So there are options, which is good if you're looking for a job.
Yep, exactly. So I guess on that point, if you were to give maybe a little bit of encouragement to those job seekers out there, or maybe the recent grad who's got student loans and they're just trying to book a job as quickly as possible, just people out there who might be a little bit discouraged in the whole job seeking market, what encouragement would you have for them?
Yeah, so even in a candidate's market, it's still tough to get a job.
Hard.
It is hard.
And tough to find one you like, probably too.
Exactly, and that's definitely so true.
Yeah.
So it is tough. More often than not, if 50 people apply to a job, one person gets it, 49 do not, and it can be easy to feel deflated.
Sure.
But there are things that you can do to help in that journey to land a job. So I think everyone probably the night before a job interview, let's Google, what a behavioral-based interview question, what might be asked. The thing there is, yes, it is good to go into an interview, be confident, have eye contact, a good handshake, be likable. But really it starts further back. It's really about the progressive experiences that you have throughout your life.
Sure.
So whether that's in school or even a progressive experience can be your job hunt.
Yeah.
If I'm sitting across from an interviewer, I can talk about what went into getting me in this seat. How do I approach a job search? Am I on LinkedIn? Am I messaging, hey, I applied to this job? I might reach out to someone at that company. It's easily searchable and say, hey, I'm interested in learning more. Drop my application, just give my interest. Many times you may not hear back, but that's a step that not a lot of people take.
So what I'm hearing in that is even for a company like Spectrum, which the name is well known, maybe some of the bet for a job seeker trying to get in, whether it's with somebody else or trying to get a recommendation, but that starts not just when you absolutely need a job, but well beforehand to say, hey, I might be looking for a job 6 months, let's grab coffee, let's have a conversation, can you help me with my resume, can you help me maybe share my experience a little bit better maybe than I know how to? Is that kind of, I want to make sure.
Yeah, it's so critical. This
Sure.
networking, the relationship building, it's not always a natural thing, especially if you're more introverted,
Sure.
but it's an investment in you, in your career. And even if you don't start it much farther back, you can start it today.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's
I like
a
that.
good practice to do.
That's cool. So you have been around the HR, talent acquisition, recruiting world for a little bit of time, and you understand sort of the space, and obviously you understand the power of networking.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to go back and job search 20 years ago, knowing what you know now,
Mm-hmm.
what would you do maybe differently, or what would you say you've sort of learned and got a leg up that you understand?
Sure.
And obviously you love your job now, but what would you going back and doing it all over again? What might that look like?
So, it probably changed many things,
Yeah.
but I am very fortunate to be where I am now. But maybe have more of a defined. So it's when you have the path ahead of you, it's very hard to say. Very few people, I think, say, "I want this job in this industry, and this is how I'm going to get there."
Yeah.
It's much more kind of experiences that take you on your path that you may not know where you're going to end. But if you can identify a few options, whether it's industry based, I know this industry is growing.
Sure.
So after I invest in education and work experience, that there will be a job for me at the end. So a demand-driven career is a very powerful thing.
Sure.
So healthcare being an example would be
caught it at
great.
the right
Yeah,
time.
would be a great one to go towards going forward. And then you narrow that down to what field do I want to do, clinical, non-clinical, and then building experiences to support that end goal. But it really, as I mentioned, progressive experiences. Just continuing to push yourself throughout your journey, whether it's in school, class projects, whether it's in extracurricular activities, whether it's in internships, whether it's in job shadows. Each one of those steps is investing in yourself,
Sure.
and investing in your
that's
story.
great.
So then when I am sitting across from an employer and I have a job interview, I can say, hey, this is my story.
Yeah.
This is why it makes sense for you to hire me. This is why I have this gap in employment, or this is why I made this decision, or this is, why I joined this
Sure.
team or committee, and this is why I would be of value to you.
Yeah, so you're framing it in the sense of saying, even if you don't necessarily have 3 to 5 years experience or whatever that might be, but it's just as much about how do you craft your story and be able to share that to the point where somebody sitting across from you is looking at you and say, yeah, I want to hire that person. I mean, so it's building the story behind kind of who you are.
That is exactly it. And so many times, I'll have a couple candidates, and I may have a candidate that says, I have 10 years of experience. And when I dig into that experience, it's the same 1 year of experience repeated 10 times.
10 different times, yeah.
Now, I'm much more intrigued typically by the candidate that maybe has less of the tenure, but more of the interesting experience
Sure.
that show upward mobility, stretch assignments, critical thinking, action orientation, accomplishing goals, results. Okay, we got something here that I can work with, and whether I take you left or right, I'm confident that you're going to be able to perform.
That's great. And I've got one more question. This is just more out of sheer curiosity.
Sure.
What would you say is your favorite interview question that might be not typical? What would be something that the candidates there's the stock questions that tell me about yourself, the strengths, weaknesses, but what would you say something that, and that doesn't have to be your one secret one, but what's a fun one that you enjoy asking?
So there's really, some of the silly ones or secret ones are fairly useless in my opinion. If you were an animal, a color, what would this be? I keep it, like my go-to interview question is a very basic question, and it's simply, hey Matt, can you tell me about your most significant professional accomplishment?
Wow, that's a good question.
So from there, as a recruiter, whether I'm recruiting for an HR job, an IT job, a clinical job, I can take that question 30 ways.
Yeah.
If I need to assess your IT acumen, as you describe this accomplishment, I can hone into IT skills.
Sure.
If I need to assess project management acumen, as you work through your example, I can hit you with follow-ups around project management, computer skills, leadership ability. Interviewing is dynamic, and many times you're going to have your canned first response, but as the interviewer, I'm going to hit 2 or 3 and then hopefully get you comfortable and natural and really assess what you've done to date. So that's my go-to most significant professional accomplishment, and then I hit the follow-up question.
That's great. That's awesome. Well, it's been great, Eric. Thanks for having us. Thanks for being on the show, and we're excited to have you alongside, and just fired up to continue the conversation moving forward. So, yeah, thanks for everybody listening, and Eric, thanks for
thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
Well done.
Yeah, take
Best of
care.
luck. You got it.